to another episode of Energize Your Passion. This is going to be a really good episode. I'm your host, Sunshine, and I'm so glad you're here with me today. We're diving into a topic that's close to my heart and probably resonates with many of you. So much started to click for me while I was researching the topic. I have always been a girl that paid attention to people's energy, more specifically around me. Our topic today is, does a person's energy matter to you in relationships and friendship? We all know that feeling when someone walks into a room and either lift our spirits or drag us down. But how much does that energy really affect us? And how can we be more mindful of the energy we bring into our relationships? Today, we're going to unpack it all. So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's get into it. Segment 1, understanding the energy we bring. Let's start with the basics. What exactly do we mean when we talk about energy in the context of relationships and friendships? Energy is that intangible vibe or atmosphere that a person brings with them. It's what you feel in their presence, and it can either be uplifting or draining. You know, it's like when you meet someone and you just click instantly, or conversely, when you feel uneasy around someone without knowing why. That's energy at play. But it's more than just a vibe. It's a combination of our emotions, attitudes, and even our intentions. In this segment, I want to break down the different types of energy we bring into our relationships, whether it's with friends, family, or romantic partner. We'll explore how our internal state can manifest outwardly and influence the people around us, and how others' energy can in turn affect us. What is energy? So, what do we mean by energy? It's not something you can see, but you can definitely feel it. It's the sense you get when you're around someone, whether they make you feel comfortable, anxious, inspired, or even exhausted. Energy can be positive, negative, or somewhere in between. It's shaped by our thought, emotions, and even our physical state. For example, someone who is often upbeat and optimistic tends to radiate positive energy, which can be contagious. On the other hand, someone who is constantly stressed or negative can bring down the mood of an entire room. How our energy influences others. Have you ever noticed how your mood can shift depending on who you're with? That's the power of energy. Our energy doesn't just stay with us, it ripples out and affects those around us. Think about the last time you were in a great mood and then spent some time with someone who was really negative. Did you find your mood dropping? This is because energy is highly contagious. When we're around positive people, their energy can uplift us, but the opposite is also true. Negative energy can drag us down, sometimes without us even realizing it. It's important to be aware of the energy we bring into our relationships because it can either nourish or deplete our connections. For example, if you're constantly bringing stress or negativity into your friendships, it can strain those relationships over time. How others' energy influences us. Just as our energy affects others, their energy affects us too. Sometimes it's a subtle feeling around someone, or maybe you find yourself feeling drained after spending time with a particular person. This is why it's crucial to be mindful of the people we surround ourselves with. In relationships, especially, the energy dynamic can play a big role in the health and longevity of the connection. If one person is always bringing negativity, it can create an imbalance that's hard to sustain. On the flip side, being around positive, supportive people can help us thrive. I personally live to surround myself with positive people and positive energy. The balance of energy in relationships. Energy in relationships is all about balance. It's a give and take. Ideally, both people in the relationship should be contributing positive energy, but we all have bad days, and that's okay. What's important is how we manage our energy and how we support each other when one of us is feeling low. We'll get into more details later on about how to manage energy in relationships. But for now, I want you to think about the energy you bring into your relationships and how it might be affecting the people around you. Are you contributing positivity, or could your energy use a little adjustment? We receive stories from our listeners I would like to share. Our first story comes from Sarah, a listener from Colorado. Sarah shared how she noticed a huge difference in her relationship with her best friend after they both decided to focus on bringing more positive energy into their interactions. Sarah said, "My best friend and I have known each other for over 10 years. But last year things got a little rocky. We both had a lot going on in our lives, and it felt like every conversation was filled with stress and negativity. One day, we sat down and had a heart to heart. We both agreed to try something different. Whenever we get together, we're focused on the positive. We'll talk about the good things in our lives, support each other, and just try to be more uplifted." It was like a switch flipped. Our friendship became stronger than ever. We both felt so much better after spending time together. Sarah's story is such a great example of how intentionality and positive energy can really transform a relationship. It's all about the energy you bring to the table. Now let's hear from Mark in Florida. Mark wrote in to share his experience with negative energy in a friendship. He said, "I had a close friend who I used to hang out with all the time. But over the years, I noticed that every time we were together, I felt drained. It took me a while to realize that it wasn't just the usual ups and downs of our life. It was the negative energy my friend was bringing into the relationship. Every conversation seemed to evolve around complaints, gossip, and negativity. After a while, I started to dread our meetups. Eventually, I had to step back and reevaluate the friendship. It was a tough decision, but distancing myself from that negative energy was the best thing I could do for my own well-being." Mark's story is a reminder that negative energy can have a profound impact on our relationships. It's so important to be aware of the energy dynamics at play. Segment 2, the impact of energy on relationships and friendships. Now that we've got a basic understanding of energy and how it influences us and others, let's dive deeper into how this energy actually impacts our relationships and friendships. This is where things get really interesting. Energy isn't just about how we feel in the moment. It can have long-lasting effects on our connections with others. Positive energy can strengthen relationships, while negative energy can erode them over time. The role of energy in romantic relationships. Let's talk about romantic relationships first. Have you ever been in a relationship where everything just fell off? even though on paper it seemed perfect. A lot of times this comes down to energy. When you're in a romantic relationship, you're sharing your life, your space, and your energy with someone else. If the energy between you is harmonious, the relationship is likely to be strong. But if there's a constant clash of energies, it can create tension and conflict. For example, if one partner is always stressed and anxious, that energy can spill over into the relationship, creating an atmosphere of tension. On the other hand, if both partners are bringing positive, supportive energy, the relationship can flourish. Energy in romantic relationship is also about compatibility. Some people naturally have energies that complement each other, while others might have energies that clash. It's important to be aware of this and to work on aligning your energies if you want the relationship to thrive. Energy in friendships. Friendships are another area where energy plays a huge role. Have you ever had a friend who just drains you every time you hang out? Or a friend who always lifts you up? That's the power of energy in friendships. In a healthy friendship, there's a balance of energy. Both people contribute to the relationship in positive ways. But when one person is always taking and never giving, it can create an imbalance that leads to resentment and eventually the breakdown of the friendship. It's important to surround yourself with friends who bring positive energy into your life. This doesn't mean that your friends need to be happy and upbeat all the time. That's unrealistic. But it does mean that there should be an overall balance of positive energy in friendship. The long-term effect of energy dynamics. Let's talk about the long-term effects of energy in relationships and friendships. Over time, the energy dynamic in a relationship can either strengthen the bond or weaken it. Positive energy can build a strong foundation, while negative energy erode it. For example, if you're in a relationship where there's a constant exchange of positive energy, that relationship is likely to grow stronger over time. But if the relationship is filled with negativity, it can start to crumble. This is why it's so important to be mindful of the energy you bring into your relationships and the energy you allow into your life. It's about creating and maintaining a healthy balance that supports the relationship rather than undermining it. Recognizing negative energy patterns. One of the keys to managing energy in relationships is recognizing negative energy patterns. Sometimes we get so used to a certain dynamic that we don't even realize it's toxic. It's important to be aware of these patterns and to take steps to address them. For example, if you notice that you're always feeling drained after spending time with a particular friend, it might be time to evaluate that friendship. Is there a way to shift the energy dynamic, or is it time to distance yourself from that person? Similarly, if you're in a romantic relationship where there's constant tension, it's important to address that and work on bringing more positive energy into the relationship. This might involve open conversation, setting boundaries, or even seeking professional help if needed. I have a couple more listener stories that really highlights the difference between positive and negative energy. Our first story in this segment comes from Emily, who lives in Oregon. Emily shared how a relationship in her life blossomed once she recognized and embraced the positive energy in it. She wrote, I started dating someone new last year, and from the very beginning, I could feel that there was something special about our connection. It wasn't just that we had a lot in common. It was the way I felt when I was with him. He brought this incredible positive energy into my life. Every time we were together, I felt happier, more optimistic, and just overall lighter. I realized that this is the kind of energy I wanted in all of my relationships. It's made me more aware of how important it is to surround myself with people who uplift and inspire me. Emily's story is a beautiful example of how positive energy can enhance a relationship. It's that feeling of lightness and joy that we should all strive for in our connections. Next, let's hear from David in New York. David shared his experience with a toxic friendship that he eventually had to let go of. He said, I had a friend who I've known since college, and for a long time, I didn't see the negative energy he was bringing into my life. He was always quick to criticize, never seemed happy for me when things were going well, and had a way of turning every conversation into something negative. It took me years to realize that I always felt worse after spending time with him. Once I recognized the pattern, I knew I had to make a change. I distanced myself from him, and it was like a weight had been lifted. My other relationships became much more positive once I let go of the toxic energy. David's story is a powerful reminder that it's crucial to recognize toxic energy in our relationships. Sometimes the best thing we can do is to step away and protect our own energy. Segment 3, cultivating positive energy in relationships and friendships. All right, now that we've talked about the impact of energy on our relationships and friendships, let's get to the good stuff. How to cultivate positive energy in our connections. Because at the end of the day, we all want relationships that uplift and inspire us, right? In this segment, I'm going to share some practical tips and strategies for bringing more positive energy into your relationships, whether it's with a romantic partner, a friend, or even a family member. It's all about creating an environment where both you and the other person can thrive. The power of positivity. Let's start with the basics. The power of positivity. It might sound cliche, but there's a reason why positive thinking is such a big deal. When you approach your relationships with a positive mindset, you're setting the stage for positive interactions. Positivity is contagious. When you're positive, you're more likely to attract positive people in your life. And when you're in a positive relationship, you're more likely to feel happy, fulfilled, and energized. But positivity isn't just about being happy all the time. It's about focusing on the good in your relationships, even when things aren't perfect. It's about being grateful for the people in your life and expressing that gratitude. Communicating with positive energy. One of the most important ways to cultivate positive energy in relationships is through communication. How you communicate with others can have a huge impact on the energy dynamic of the relationship. When you communicate with positive energy, you're more likely to have productive conversations that bring you closer to the other person. This means listening actively, expressing yourself clearly and kindly, and being open to feedback. It's also important to be mindful of your tone and your body language. Sometimes it's not what you say, but how you say it that matters. That's a powerful statement. Let's repeat that. Sometimes it's not what you say, but how you say it that matters. A positive tone and open body language can go a long way in creating a positive energy dynamic. Setting boundaries for healthy energy. Another key to cultivating positive energy in your relationships is setting boundaries. Boundaries are essential for maintaining a healthy energy balance. They help you protect your energy and ensure that you're not being drained by others. Setting boundaries isn't about shutting people out. It's about creating a space where both you and the other person can feel respected and valued. This might mean setting limits on how much time you spend with someone or being clear about what you're comfortable with in a relationship. When you set boundaries, you're taking control of your energy and ensuring that you're only giving it to people and situations that deserve it. Did you hear that? Only give your energy to people and situations that deserve it. This helps create a positive energy dynamic in your relationships. Practicing self-care to maintain positive energy. Finally, let's talk about self-care. You can't bring positive energy into your relationship if you're not taking care of yourself. That's right. Take care of yourself. Self-care is all about making sure you're in a good place mentally, emotionally, and physically so that you can show up as your best self in your relationships. This might mean taking time for yourself, practicing mindfulness, or doing things that bring you joy. When you take care of yourself, you're more likely to have the energy and the positivity to give to others. Remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. By practicing self-care, you're ensuring you have the energy to contribute positively to your relationships. Our listeners have a lot to say on this subject. So I've got a couple of listener stories to share that perfectly illustrate the power of positive energy. Our first story in this segment comes from Leah in California. Leah shared how she and her partner worked together to create a positive energy dynamic in their relationship. She said, "My partner and I had been together for a few years, and while we were both happy, we noticed that we were getting into the habit of focusing on the negative, complaining about work, stressing about finances, that kind of thing. We decided to make a conscious effort to bring more positivity into our relationship. We started a gratitude journal together where we each write down 3 things we were grateful for every day. It might sound simple, but it completely shifts the energy in our relationship. We started focusing on the good things more, and our connection became so much stronger and more joyful." Leah's story shows how even small changes like practicing gratitude can have a huge impact on the energy in a relationship. Next, let's hear from Jason in Texas. Jason wrote in to share how practicing self-care helped him bring more positive energy into his friendships. He said, "I used to be the type of person who always put others first, even at the expense of my own well-being. I thought that was what being a good friend meant. But over time, I started to feel burned out and resentful. I realized that I needed to take better care of myself if I wanted to show up fully for my friends. I started prioritizing my needs, whether it was taking time to relax, pursuing my hobbies, or just saying no when I needed to. The difference was amazing. Once I started practicing self-care, I found that I had so much more positive energy to give to my friendships." Jason's story highlights the importance of self-care in maintaining positive energy. When we take care of ourselves, we're better able to bring the positive energy into our relationships. Segment 4, managing negative energy in relationships and friendships. We've talked a lot about positive energy, but what about the negative stuff? Because let's be real, not every relationship is going to be sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes we have to deal with negative energy, whether it's coming from us or the other person. In this segment, I'm going to share some tips for managing negative energy in your relationships and friendships. Because while it's great to focus on the positive, we also need to know how to handle the not so great stuff when it comes up. Recognizing your own negative energy. Let's start with ourselves. It's easy to point fingers at others when we're feeling negative energy, but sometimes we need to take a look in the mirror. We all have bad days, and that's okay. What's important is how we handle those days and how we manage our own energy. Recognizing our own negative energy is the first step in managing it. This might mean being honest with yourself about how you're feeling and why. Are you stressed, tired, angry? Once you identify the source of your negative energy, you can start to address it. It's also important to be mindful of how your negative energy is affecting others. If you're in a bad mood, it might be better to take some time for yourself rather than bring that negative energy into your relationships. Dealing with negative energy from others. Now let's talk about dealing with negative energy from others. This can be tricky, especially if it's someone you care about. But it's important to remember that you're not responsible for someone else's energy. You're only responsible for how you respond to it. When you're dealing with negative energy from someone else, it's important to stay grounded in your own positive energy. This might mean setting boundaries, distancing yourself from that person, or even having an honest conversation about how their energy is affecting you. It's also important to protect your own energy. This might mean practicing self-care, setting limits on how much time you spend with the person, or even cutting ties if the relationship is toxic. Turning negative energy into positive energy. One of the best ways to manage negative energy in your relationship is to turn it into positive energy. This might sound easier said than done, but it's definitely possible. For example, if you're feeling negative energy in a relationship, try to focus on the positives. What do you appreciate about the person? What are the good things in the relationship? By shifting your focus, you can start to turn the negative energy into positive energy. It's also helpful to practice empathy and understanding. Sometimes negative energy comes from a place of pain or fear. By understanding where the other person is coming from, you can start to shift the energy dynamic in a more positive direction. Letting go of negative relationships. Sometimes, despite our best effort, a relationship is just too toxic to salvage. In these cases, it's important to recognize when it's time to let go. Let go. Holding on to a negative relationship can drain your energy and prevent you from attracting positive energy into your life. Letting go isn't easy, but it's sometimes necessary for your own well-being. It's about prioritizing your own energy and creating space for positive relationships that uplift and inspire you. Remember, you deserve to be surrounded by people who bring positive energy into your life. Don't be afraid to let go of friendships that no longer serve you. I've also got a couple of listener stories that show just how challenging but ultimately rewarding managing negative energy can be. Our first story in this segment comes from Nina in Illinois. Nina shared how she was able to turn around a relationship that had been plagued by negative energy. She said, I've been friends with my coworker for years, but lately it felt like every conversation was filled with negativity, complaining about work, venting about personal issues, that sort of thing. It was starting to get me down, and I realized that something needed to change. I decided to have a candid conversation with her about how I was feeling. I told her that I value our friendship, but I needed us to focus on more positive topics when we talked. To my surprise, she was totally receptive. We made a pact to keep each other accountable and focus on the good things in our lives. It wasn't easy at first, but over time our conversations became so much more uplifting and positive. Nina's story is a great example of how open communication can help transform negative energy into something positive. Next, let's hear from Alex in Washington. Alex shared how he had to make the difficult decision to distance himself from a friend who was bringing too much negative energy into his life. Alex said, I had a friend who was going through a tough time, but I tried to be there for him as much as I could. But after a while, I realized that his constant negativity was starting to affect my own mental health. Every time we hung out, I felt drained and anxious. It was hard, but I eventually had to have an honest conversation with him. I explained that while I cared about him, I needed to take a step back to protect my own energy. It wasn't easy, and I felt guilty at first, but in the end, it was the right decision for both of us. I've since learned that sometimes protecting your own energy means setting boundaries, even with people you care about. Alex's story highlights the importance of protecting your own energy, even if it means making tough decisions. It's a reminder that your well-being should always be a priority. Segment 5, building and maintaining high energy relationships and friendships. We've covered a lot of ground today, and I hope you're feeling inspired to take a closer look at the energy in your relationships and friendships. In this final segment, I want to talk about how to build and maintain high energy relationships. Those connections that leave you feeling energized, supported, and truly fulfilled. These are the relationships that make life worth living, and they're absolutely worth the effort to cultivate. So let's dive into how we can create and sustain high energy connections in your life. Building high energy relationships. Building high energy relationships start with being intentional about the people you let into your life. It's about choosing to surround yourself with positive, uplifting individuals who share your values and goals. One way to build high energy relationships is to seek out like-minded people. This might mean joining communities or groups where you can connect with others who share your interests and passions. When you find people who are on the same wavelength as you, it's easier to create a positive energy dynamic. It's also important to be mindful of the energy you bring into new relationships. Approach these connections with positivity, openness, and authenticity. When you show up as your best self, you're more likely to attract others who do the same. Nurturing and sustaining positive energy. Once you've built high energy relationships, it's important to nurture and sustain that positive energy. Relationships require effort and attention, and it's important to keep that energy dynamic balanced and healthy. One way to do that is through regular check-ins. Make time to connect with the people in your life and show them that you care. This could be as simple as sending a text to say hello or scheduling a regular catch-up. It's also important to continue cultivating positive energy in your relationships. This means being mindful of your communication, setting healthy boundaries, and practicing empathy and understanding. Remember, high energy relationships is a two-way street. It's about both people contributing positive energy and supporting each other, creating a positive energy network. In addition to individual relationships, it's also important to create a supportive energy network, a group of people who uplift and inspire you. This network can include friends, family, colleagues, or even mentors. Having a supportive energy network is essential for maintaining your own positive energy. These are the people you can turn to when you need encouragement, advice, or just a listening ear. They're the ones who lift you up when you're feeling down and celebrate your successes with you. Building a supportive energy network takes time, but it's worth the effort. Surround yourself with people who bring out the best in you and who you can count on when you need support. Giving back to your energy network. Finally, let's talk about giving back to your energy network. Relationships are about reciprocity, and it's important to give as much as you receive. This means being there for the people in your life, offering your support, and sharing your positive energy. When you give back to your energy network, you're strengthening those connections and ensuring that the energy dynamic remains balanced. This could mean offering a helping hand, providing encouragement, or simply being a good listener. Remember, the energy you put out into the world comes back to you. By giving back to your energy network, you're creating a positive cycle of energy that benefits everyone involved. As always, I've got a couple of listener stories that show just how positive, powerful, high energy relationships can be. Our first story in this final segment comes from Rachel in Georgia. Rachel shared how her high energy friendships have been a source of strength and joy in her life. She said, I'm lucky to have a group of friends who are all about positive energy. We've been through a lot together, job changes, breakups, and everything in between. But through it all, we've always made a point to lift each other up. Whenever one of us is feeling down, the rest of the group rallies around to offer support and encouragement. It's not just about being there for the good times. It's about creating an environment where we all feel safe, supported, and energized. These friendships have been a lifeline for me, and I truly believe that the positive energy we share is what makes our bond so strong. Rachel's story is a beautiful example of how high energy friendships can be a source of incredible strength and resilience. Finally, let's hear from Kevin in Ohio. Kevin shared how he and his partner have worked together to cultivate a high energy relationship. He said, my partner and I are both busy with our careers, and it can be easy to let stress and exhaustion take over. But we've made it a priority to keep the energy in our relationship high. We do this by regularly checking in with each other, making time for fun activities, and just being intentional about the energy we bring into our relationship. Whether it's a weekly date night or simply spending time together doing something we love, we make sure to nurture our connection and keep the positive energy flowing. It's made such a difference in our relationship, and I'm grateful every day for the energy we share. Kevin's story is a great reminder that maintaining a high energy relationships takes effort, and it is absolutely worth it. Wow, we've covered so much today. Let's take a moment to recap the key points we've discussed about the importance of energy in relationships and friendships. Number one, energy is a powerful force in our relationships, whether it's positive or negative. The energy we bring to our connections can have a huge impact on the quality of those relationships. Number two, we explored the signs of both positive. We explored the signs of both positive and negative energy in relationships. Positive energy leaves you feeling uplifted and supported, while negative energy can drain you and leave you feeling exhausted. Number three, we also talked about how to cultivate positive energy in our relationships through positivity, communication, boundaries, and self-care. Number four, managing negative energy is just as important. We discuss how to recognize and address your own negative energy, deal with the negative energy from others, and when to let go of toxic relationships. Number five, finally, we looked at how to build and maintain high energy relationships and create a supportive energy network. These are the relationships that bring out the best in you and help you thrive. I hope this episode have given you some valuable insights into the role of energy in your relationships and friendships. Remember, you have the power to choose the energy you bring into your connections, and that choice can make all the difference. Before we wrap up, I want to encourage you to take these ideas and apply them to your own life. Think about the energy in your relationships, what's working, and what could use a little bit more positivity. If you found today's episode helpful, I'd love for you to share it with someone who could benefit from it. And if you haven't already, please give us a 5-star rating. It really helps to spread the word and keep the positive energy flowing. Thank you so much for joining me today on Energize Your Passion, and I can't wait to connect with you again next time. Until next time, keep shining your positive energy out into the world. I'm Sunshine, signing off.